You meet someone new, a stranger on the street, a face on a dating app, a new coworker in the doorway. Before they say a single word, you already have a feeling about them. You couldn't explain it if you tried. But the real answer is far stranger than a feeling. Your brain already decided whether to trust that face before you were even aware you were looking at it. This happens in a tenth of a second, not a full second, a tenth of one. Faster than you can blink twice. In that sliver of time, your brain has already scanned the width of the eyes, the angle of the brow, the shape of the jaw, and quietly filed a verdict. Safe or not safe? You didn't choose this. You inherited it. The psychologist Alexander Todorov spent years studying this exact moment. At Princeton, he showed people unfamiliar faces for just a fraction of a second and asked them to rate trustworthiness. The judgments were instant. They were also remarkably consistent. Different people, looking at the same stranger, tended to agree. Something about certain faces triggers the same ancient alarm, or the same ancient calm, in almost everyone. Why would a brain need to do this? Think about where that brain was built. Not in a city, not in an office. It was built on a savanna in small bands of people who depended on each other for food, protection, and survival. A wrong guess about a stranger's intentions could mean losing your share of meat or losing your life. There was no time for careful analysis. There was only time for a fast guess. So your ancestors evolved a shortcut. A face with wide eyes and raised brows reads as harmless, almost childlike. A face with a lowered brow and tight mouth reads as a threat. These aren't universal truths about the people wearing those expressions. They're patterns your brain latched onto because, often enough, they worked well enough to keep you alive. Here's where it gets stranger. This trust reflex isn't just guesswork layered on top of logic. It runs on its own separate track in the brain, largely driven by a small almond-shaped structure called the amygdala. The amygdala doesn't wait for your conscious mind to weigh in. It fires first. Your rational thoughts arrive late, like a lawyer showing up after the jury already reached a verdict. Does that mean you're powerless over your first impressions? Not entirely, but it does mean the feeling arrives before the reasoning does, every single time. There's a hormone tangled up in all of this too. Oxytocin, sometimes nicknamed the trust chemical, floods your system during moments of bonding, touch, and connection. The economist Paul Zak ran a series of experiments where he had people play trust-based economic games, then measured their oxytocin levels afterward. People who received a gesture of trust from a partner showed a spike in oxytocin. That spike made them more likely to trust in return. Trust, in other words, isn't just a judgment. It's a feedback loop your body runs on chemistry. But faces aren't the whole story. Your brain also built an entire toolkit for catching liars and cheaters, because trust always came with risk. The anthropologists Leda Cosmides and John Tooby proposed that humans evolved specialized mental machinery just for detecting cheaters in social exchanges. Not general logic, not abstract reasoning. A dedicated system, sharpened over generations, built specifically to catch someone breaking a social contract. Think about how easily you can spot a lie of convenience versus how hard it is to solve an unrelated logic puzzle of the same difficulty. Your brain isn't lazy there. It's specialized. It's running old software that was optimized for exactly one job, keeping you from getting exploited by the people around you. So if your brain is this good at snap judgments, why does it still get fooled? Why do con artists succeed? Why do first impressions sometimes betray you completely? Because the shortcut was never designed for the world you live in now. Your ancestors met maybe a few hundred people in an entire lifetime. Every face carried real weight. Every stranger might become a permanent ally or a permanent threat. You, on the other hand, might scroll past more human faces in a single hour online than your ancestors saw in a year. The volume broke the system. The shortcut still fires with full confidence, but it's now calibrated for a world that no longer exists. This is why a smooth talker with symmetrical features and a warm smile can walk past your ancient alarm system completely undetected. Your amygdala isn't checking bank statements or criminal records. It's checking brow angle and eye width. The same cues that worked on a savanna applied to a species that has since invented fraud, catfishing, and airbrushed photos. There's a flip side too, one that's easy to miss. That same system that misjudges strangers is remarkably good at reading people you already know well. Familiarity recalibrates the alarm. The more real information you gather about a specific person, tone of voice, patterns of behavior, how they treat people when nothing is at stake, the less your brain relies on the blunt instrument of first-glance trust. Slow trust, built from evidence, is a completely different system than fast trust, built from a face. Researchers studying long-term relationships have found something similar. The psychologist John Gottman spent decades observing couples and found that trust wasn't really about grand gestures. It was built and eroded in tiny, repeated moments, what he called the small stuff of everyday interaction. A kept promise here, a moment of attentiveness there. Not one dramatic proof, but thousands of small ones, stacking quietly into a verdict that finally overrides the ancient shortcut. So which one is actually more accurate? The 10th of a second gut read, or the slow accumulation of evidence over months? The uncomfortable answer is neither one is fully reliable. The fast system is built for detecting danger, not detecting character. The slow system is built for pattern recognition, not certainty. You are, in a sense, always running two different trust engines at once, one ancient and reflexive, one modern and deliberate, and they don't always agree. Notice this the next time you swipe past a face on a screen. That flicker of instant judgment, drawn or not drawn, isn't really about the stranger at all. It's a fossil, a leftover survival tool, still running exactly as designed, just aimed at a target it was never built for. You will meet another stranger today, maybe several, and before a single word passes between you, your ancient brain will already have rendered its verdict, fast, silent, and utterly confident. The real answer isn't that you're reading people, it's that your ancestors' oldest alarm system is still reading faces for you.